my goal is to try to get people who can't understand where we're coming from, where you see what's going on in the world right now.
I panicked a little bit.
Hey man, it brings back the old days.
I was always ready to go.
Anytime you show up to the party with this, it better be drinkable.
Oh, there's that cinnamon.
Yo, what up?
How's it going, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Men and Means podcast.
Yeah, man, we back at it. Here we are.
Back again.
So, James, man, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, man. I'm really happy to be back here. Anthony's not with us today, guys. He is very missed today, but he'll be back next week. He had other things he had to take care of.
Yeah, I just want to make it clear, man. Anthony is a crucial part of this team, and it does feel a little odd not to look down there and see my boy sitting there. You know what I mean?
You know, it is a little lonely in that end of his table. And to be honest, Ken texted me earlier, and he's like, "Hey, what about here's some topics and this and that." And I said, "Look, we got to table those for when Anthony's here, and we're at full cast for everybody." So he is missed. It is a little sad looking down at his end of the table, but
Right.
we're gonna keep it rolling today to give you guys some good content.
Yeah, and that's what we're gonna do. You know what I mean? So with that said, how's your week been though? Let's just real quick recap of the week. How you been? World. I'll let you go.
Yeah, my week's been good. I didn't know we had like a shutdown at work, to be honest with you, but I went in and did my daily thing and went in there and worked, and it was good. I got some really good feedback from people on the last episode of the podcast. So if you guys haven't checked it out, go ahead and check it out. It struck people a little emotionally, and I think that's a good thing. That's one of our goals, is to be able to have our content relatable to people. So it was a good thing.
Right. So if you haven't checked out the last episode, man, and what I believe that James is alluding to there is we talked a little bit about our childhoods. You know what I mean? And I think that was a great vibe, man. And with that said, my week wasn't too bad. Thanks for asking. But no, my week wasn't bad either. He mentioned that we had a shutdown at work, and I'm like, shut down for who? I've been there every single day. You know what I will mention real quick is we did have a little bit of a coronavirus scare.
Oh,
that was a little.
Yeah.
That was a little.
That also I wasn't aware of. I was at work and they're like, "Were you here yesterday?" I was like, "Yeah, I've been here every day."
Yeah.
They're like, "You didn't hear?" I did not hear. We had a little scare, but it's expected when you have people coming to work still.
And you know, here's the fucked up thing is, man. So anyway, I get the news. I'm actually at home playing Warzone. You know what I mean? I'm in the zone. I get a call and I'm like, oh. Let me answer this. I got my headphones in anyway. You know, I was actually listening to the podcast while I was playing. I answer the phone and it's like, oh, hey, I just want to let you know so-and-so, parents, whatever, tested positive and he lives with his parents. And I'm like, oh, shit, you know. And so I'm like, okay, well, you know, I got to call my team. So I start calling them. And everyone I call is like, Ken, are you crying? And I'm like... Fucking, you think I'm crying? I'm like, nah, I'm not crying. I was a little worried, and I will be honest with you. I called the people I knew who had kids first, and I was like, hey, man, I don't come to work. I basically told my whole team. Well, the reason I'm even mentioning it is I basically told everybody not to come in. I called one individual, and I'm like, hey, man, you know, like, I don't need you to come in tomorrow. And he's like, what do you mean? And I'm like, so I explained it to him, and he's like, are you going? And I'm like, yeah, man, I'll take care of everything. And he's like, nah, dude. I'm not leaving you hanging. And like, to me, I was just like, damn, that's dope, you know? And then another one I call is like, nah, dude, I'm coming too. Like, I got you. Like, I'm not, you can't do it all by yourself.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you're right. I can't. I just, you know, I didn't want to put anybody in harm's way. We didn't have all the information at that moment. So shout out to you two. Actually, I want to say more people did come in too. So shout out to everyone. You know what I mean? That was like, nah, you know, we're not leaving you hanging, man. To me, these kind of things blow my mind. You know what I mean? Like, James, it's like you at work, somebody's like, yeah, day off with pay. You're like, hell yeah.
I'll take it every day.
Yeah, and so to see people that were like, nah, man, it's cool. I'll be there. It blows my mind. You know what I mean? It blows my mind.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you know what's funny? I had someone tell me like, well, it was his parents. And in my head, I was like, well, who do you think he lives with?
Yeah.
His parents. So I was like, okay, well, he's contaminated for the time being, and we are all in jeopardy. But we are trying to do things safely, and we are trying to get the job done. And like myself, I didn't know, but I went in there and we just do everything we do safely and
Yeah.
try to get through the day.
Understand we all wear masks. You got to wear your mask, which has been, if anything, this highlighted that point, right? Like, hey, if you're here, make sure you wear your mask.
No fist bumping.
Yeah, that's.
Fist bumping has now been prohibited.
And this would be a great time for our boy to be here.
It would
you know
be
what I mean?
great
Like,
for him.
This would be like, this is where he shines, man.
Yeah, he would be great to explain maybe even the radius and the path of travel that the individual took.
Oh, he would break it down.
He would break it down
Yeah.
for sure. So he is a little missed here.
So Anthony, man, this shout out to you. You know what I mean? I hope to have you back soon. And with that, you guys understand, like, he obviously could not make it. No, he had prior engagements, man. So that's understood. So anyway, man, let's go ahead. Let's jump into whiskey time, James. What we got today?
So we have today the Balvenie or the Balvenie.
Hey,
I'm gonna go ahead and put this up for the camera so you guys
please,
guys can check this out on the YouTube.
Tell us what we're drinking.
Yeah.
I don't know.
We had a comment on our last YouTube video. The guy said, "Hey, I didn't get to see the bottle last time, but so here you guys go. Here's the bottle for you guys. It's a nice bottle. I like to classify this bottle as the shipwreck bottle because if you flip it to the side, it's one of those bottles.
Yeah.
But it's a classy bottle.
Yeah.
I think so.
It's not over the top.
It's not over the top. It's very basic. The color scheme is basic, but it is a nice bottle. I gotta give it that. And it did come in a little.
Yeah, you know what? And for whatever reason, when I'm in a store and I see those little containers, I'm kind of drawn towards those because I think some of our best ones, some of the top level ones that we've got have come in that. We had the Glenlivet came in that, and it was so nice you did it twice. You know what I mean?
We had the Abalor.
The Abalor, yeah.
We will get back to that one for you guys. We couldn't release that episode, but the Abalor was great. So we had the Glenlivet, we had the Abalor, and we had the Duars. All came in containers and all ranked really high on our scale.
Right. So me seeing that's usually a good indicator. Anyway, so we got the name. You want to give them a little background?
Yeah. So this is aged 12 years, and it is aged in two different types of casks. One is the whiskey oak, so many years of maturation in traditionally whiskey cask, and then they transferred over to, I guess, a sherry oak. And this is a Highland Scotch. And we love Scotches here. I mean, I think it's preferable for us to drink a Scotch.
It is.
It's a Highland Scotch, and I'm excited for this one. I think this is going to be a good one.
And another indicator for me that it would be good was the sherry oak. I thought, you know what? We've gotten several that have come out of sherry oak. And it does, and you know what? I got to say, too, it gives it like a lighter vibe with it, you know? And so I was like, you know what? I've always liked that. It's a little lighter, a little more fruity. And I think it's gone over well with the crew here.
Yeah. So
I ran it back. This particular bottle ran me about $60. I think it was like $59.99. That's a little something. Why is it always 50? It's like, are we really we're really sheeple like that? Where we're like, man, that 1 penny.
I wonder why.
I better hold it down.
Why do you think that is?
Because it's that 1 penny. It's not $60. It's $59.99.
But it's always plus tax.
When you assume the zeros make it look better than the nines,
yeah,
right?
I think so.
But it's that first number. I think we look at the first number.
The 5?
Yeah, that would make more sense.
Yeah.
I see a 5 instead of a 6. Seems cheaper.
Yeah, that's marketing for you.
Well, yeah, dude. Hey, yeah, we're gonna get into a little bit of that. And
Yeah.
how influences get to you. But anyway. So that's kind of our overall bottle. I mean, it's a cool bottle. It's not great. I'll be honest with you. If you guys are watching this, the top here kind of looks like an anal plug. It kind of does.
There's no denying it. But
yeah,
it kind of does. Do me a favor real quick.
Yep.
Pull the cork out. If you guys have ever seen a movie that involves magics and potions, the top kind of looks a little potion-y. Like it looks like it looked like the way that it's kind of like.
What's a movie that you like that involves that?
I don't know. Since I said potion-y, let's just go with Hocus Pocus. Maybe they opened up a little vial of
little
something.
Sarah Jessica Parker.
A little something. Was she in it?
Yeah.
That wasn't her.
Yeah.
Was it?
Yeah.
I know Bette Midler was in there.
Yeah, Bette Midler. But Sarah, I know because I used to be like, as a kid, my sister loved it.
That was a hot witch.
It. Yeah, I'd be like, man, she is bad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now I'm like, no, I'll pass. But, you know what I mean? But back then, yeah. But I was gonna say, mine, if I had to pick one, would probably be a little something more along the line of The Impressionist.
Okay.
Hugh Jackman, Christian Bell. I think is
Oh,
that it,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
That's the right movie.
Yeah. Well, I know the cast. I don't know the name.
Yeah, so I'm like, what is the movie name? If we're wrong, just disregard that.
The Impressionist. It sounds right.
Impressionist.
Yeah, it sounds right. It sounds
Yeah.
right to me.
That's a good movie. We know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Maybe the
so-
title's wrong, but if, again, if you feel free to jump on the comments and correct us,
Yeah, we love
and
that.
then we'll delete them. But no, I'm just kidding. No.
We'll hide all the ones that don't
Yeah.
suit us. Well,
Yeah, no. Please talk shit if you want to.
please talk shit.
Yeah, please go for it.
Please. You know why? Because when you talk shit, it identifies the best parts of our episode,
Yeah.
and it helps us promote it. So
Go for it.
yeah, go for it. So we're gonna go ahead and get into the nose of this thing, or the breathability.
Oh yeah, he's
That's
not
Anthony.
here. Shout out Anthony.
Shout out
Yeah,
Anthony.
we'll cheers him too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So go ahead and cheers that.
Well, we're not even drinking it. We cheers premature.
Oh, sorry.
You know what I mean?
Take it back. Hello.
Hello.
And how are you?
How are you?
Wow, this smells great.
It's good.
This smells great.
Dude, like I just want to dive in.
You know,
It does smell good. That's
know-
that sherry oak.
yeah, it's a sherry oak, and I want to talk to all the non-whiskey drinkers out there. I know that when you smell, maybe you're not a whiskey drinker and you smelled some real harsh whiskey in the past.
Mm-hmm.
This is one that really doesn't have a really strong smell to it. It just goes down. You just smell it, and it actually is very inviting.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I often like to compare them to other more popular whiskeys that I think, like, let's take like a Southern Comfort. You don't want to smell Southern Comfort. No, there's no desire, right? You smell it, it's fruity. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It is like a fruity scent. It's inviting. It's like the water's warm. Come on in.
Come
you know what I
on
mean?
in.
And we were saying some things that are questionable. Anyway, so moving on. Can we cheers again? Can we?
Yeah.
Can we give it this a taste?
So now to Anthony.
All
To
right,
cheers.
Anthony. Yep. I enjoy that.
That's really good.
It's mellow,
Very mellow.
very mellow. Like I said, it's fruity.
Yeah, it's again, it's one of those whiskeys that in the front doesn't give you the kick, and then it's not warm, but there's flavor there. It's like I said, it's
Right.
a robust flavor. It really is enjoyable. This is a really enjoyable whiskey.
And then on the back end there, it's not like one of those lingerers. You know what I mean?
No.
Because nobody likes a lingerer.
No one
you know
likes a
what I
lingerer.
mean?
Fucking linger.
Fucking lingerers, man.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't. It really doesn't. It's a nice it's just a nice vibe the whole way through. But James, I was wondering, man, can you explain? I got a question the other day. It was like, hey, you guys are always like, let's get in the pocket. We're getting in the pocket. What the fuck does getting in the pocket mean? Can you give the people a little background and a little explanation of getting in the pocket?
Yeah, so for all our listeners out there, when we reference getting in the pocket, what we're really referencing is that sweet spot when you're drinking. And everybody who's listened to this probably has had a drink at one point or another, but it's when you start drinking and at first, you're easing into it, and then you hit a certain point where you're just vibing. Everything's going good. You feel good. You start talking more.
Mm-hmm.
You start enjoying your surroundings.
Inhibitions are lowered.
Inhibitions are lowered. Your expectations are lowered.
Mm-hmm.
Everything just feels right, and it just at that point you're in the pocket. And the main part about being in the pocket is it's a fine line.
Oh man, you got to really walk that shit careful.
Yeah. So if we're talking about responsible drinking here, if you can walk yourself in the pocket for the duration of your night,
Oh, that sweet spot.
that's the sweet spot. That's
Yeah.
where you want to be. So when we're trying to get in the pocket, that's where we're trying to get. We're trying to get that fine line, enjoy ourselves, and really just love where we are.
And if you've listened to the episodes here, I have crossed that line many times.
It's hard not to.
Here's the thing: is you hit the pocket and it's great, and you're like, I want to stay here. Like this is, and so you're like, give me a little more. I don't want to get out of the pocket. And then you're like, oh no, I'm out of the pocket. I jumped right through the pocket, and now you're on the floor.
That's what makes it eluding though, and you want to be there because you pass it. It's like when you pass, like where you're trying to go, you want to go back, Next time you try to hit it, you go a little too far.
Mm-hmm.
But in the pocket is a really good place for you guys to be. So as you guys might be pouring up a little glass of whiskey with us, or you might be having some drinks with your friends or family,
Whoever.
just aim for the pocket and you will enjoy your night.
So just to sum that up, the pocket is that perfect level of drunkenness. Not too drunk, not too sober. I'm feeling good. I'm mingling. I'm having a good time. And that's the pocket. And that's where, James, where we going?
We're going in the pocket.
We're getting in the pocket.
We're getting in the pocket.
That's what we do. Overall, James, well, what are you sitting at with this one? Price point, like I said, about $60. Decent bottle so far from what we got. Smells good, tastes good. Overall, where you sitting at?
Okay. Well, I just took another swig of this bottle, this glass. I'm trying to lean on the past whiskeys I've had on here and the ratings that I've given. I'm gonna give this one a 7.
Sam.
7.
Thank you.
I'm gonna give this one a 7 because it smells good. It's not too strong. The flavor is there, and it really is an enjoyable glass of whiskey. And we're taking it neat. We just had recently someone give us a gift of some stones.
The ice stones.
Yeah,
I don't
the
fucking call
cooling
them.
stones or
The
whatever they are.
frozen stones.
But
Kidney stones.
yeah, this is really a good, neat glass of whiskey, and I would recommend this to somebody who really doesn't, or somebody who thinks whiskey is too strong.
Mm-hmm.
I would recommend this type of whiskey to them. It's a really good Scotch.
So you're sitting on 7.
I'm sitting on a 7.
And if you guys don't know us, man, I think me, when I procure the whiskey, I tend to go Scotch. I like the vibes. This is a sherry oak. I thought that'd be terrific. I ran with that. And so with that said, I like James's 7. I'm gonna give it a little higher, not to go against the grain, but a little higher. I want to say 7 point. No, you know what? Actually, I'm gonna go 8 because the price is much cheaper. It's much cheaper than the previous ones we've had. It's about $30-$40 cheaper than the ones that I've got. Very similar taste. I imagine the name's a little less known. I've never heard of it. I don't even know how to say it. So I'm gonna go an 8. I enjoyed it. And I got a question the other day. People, you want ice balls, you want ice cubes, stones, fucking ice flakes, chips. And my answer is however you like it. It's really for you. I also, man, it's funny. I had a friend of mine just right now, like, oh, I'm not a whiskey guy, and this would be what I would recommend. One of the ones that I would say, I know what you're thinking. You've had your Southern Comforts. You've had those things. Try something like this.
Yeah, well, most people who don't like whiskey, I doubt they've had the
Because no one's ever.
What is it? What is the name?
All right, Balvenie.
Balvenie. I doubt they've had, like, they've explored a little bit, and sometimes that's what it takes.
Yeah.
So that brings us to an average of 7.5 for whiskey time,
Which is not bad.
which is great. I mean,
That's pretty good.
It's a pretty good whiskey.
We've gotten a little more critical over the weeks.
Yeah, we're really getting into our own.
Yeah. We used to shoot for the moon.
We used to shoot for the moon or middle of the road, but you know what? Honestly, this is a good, and the price point makes it a good buy.
Right.
So go ahead and pick this up and check it out.
Somebody signed the bottle. I don't know who the hell it is.
Probably Mr. Balvenie himself.
The Malt Master signed it.
Oh, the Malt Master. Perfect.
Shout out to the Malt Master. All right, man. So there you go. That's our whiskey time. That's our whiskey review. And yeah, if you guys are interested, check it out. It was good. Moving on. Something I wanted to talk about. Something I've been anticipating and excited for months now. I love movies. I've mentioned that many times before. James as well. I like Christopher Nolan. I think he's one of the best directors I've ever seen. The gentleman's coming out with a new movie.
Yeah.
The movie is called Tenet, which also, if you spell it backwards, is still called Tenet. It's coming out. And July 30th, I think they moved it to. It was supposed to be like the 27th. I know that because my birthday is right around that time. However, the movie, now they moved it to the 30th. What the fuck was the point? You know what
3
I mean?
days?
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe I got my dates wrong, but I know they moved it to like the 30th, 31st, whatever it is.
How do you think it's going to come out?
And that's my question. Is this coronavirus shit going to fuck up me seeing this movie?
Well, certain movies have released on certain platforms.
Yeah, but this it's Christopher Nolan. This is the summer blockbusters, brother.
Yeah,
They
but there's no way around this. What we're going through.
and that's well. Anyway, let's jump into the trailer first.
Yeah, so
Let's talk about it.
Yeah, so I watched the trailer today. Kenneth's been talking about this for months. Highly recommend you guys go watch it. I'm actually gonna link it in the YouTube video that you guys are gonna see. Oh my god!
Yeah.
Look at Christopher Nolan. When I first started getting into like the filming aspect of things, his shots are standard for great
Yeah,
cinematic
yeah.
experiences.
This is Inception.
Yeah,
One of my favorite movies I've ever seen, and just directed beautifully is Memento. The Batman trilogy, the Christian Bale.
and you made a point earlier that he does scenes that are hard to imagine making.
Oh
but
yeah.
he does them and he does them well.
So if you've never seen Memento, to picture it must be so challenging. Like I can't imagine reading it and then thinking, all right, now I have to make it come to life.
Well,
And-
I bet his cinematographers are like, oh man, we got a huge challenge.
Oh, yeah.
Us. When they read the
Mhm.
actual script and the filming aspect of it.
And if you ever, there's a video out there, I forget what it is, but there's a video of him explaining how he perceived the movie and how he explained to the crew how they were going to shoot it. And it's basically like a parabola. Yeah, I went to high school. You know what I mean? But like a U shape, right? Where you take the beginning and then you cut in the end. Then you take the next phase, cut that in from the end of that same, you know what I mean?
Sequence.
So basically, you have this U, and then you're coming here, and then you have this part where it all matches up, and then you're just blown the fuck away, you know, the whole time, and it's actually really one of the best as far as directing goes. I was very impressed.
Yeah, and I want to give him a huge shout out because I think that he takes technology and he takes what we can actually do with film and he takes it to his imagination. It's not the other way around where he thinks about what can we accomplish. He thinks about these concepts, and for the most part, he has good stories that go along with good filming, and then you have this whole experience, which I think he's really good at putting that across.
Agreed. Have you seen Dunkirk?
Yeah.
Again, not the most exciting movie ever, but like watching it, you're
Cinematically.
like, it's bad. I knew like that was one I had to see in the theater,
Yeah.
you know. And you're sitting there. I saw it in like IMAX, like fucking RPX, you know, because I was like, I know what he does, and I know like that's the way to see this movie. And I'm just sitting there like, man, this is impressive.
Yeah.
So
for everybody who may or may not be able to see that in theaters or however they're gonna release that, make sure you guys check that out because
yeah, Tenet.
Just watch the trailer. The
Yeah.
trailer itself will get you hooked.
And I'd say, man, it seems very Inception-ish. You know what I mean? Like to a degree. Like, right? It's basically they have whatever for some means. I haven't seen a movie, just a trailer, but it's like they have the means of reversing time.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, when I watched the trailer a little while ago, they said, "Oh, it's an inversion of time,"
Right.
and right then and there,
Yeah.
I was
Inception type, right?
I was in.
One of the quotes from the trailer is, "Don't imagine you're not shooting the bullet, you're catching the bullet." You know what I mean? So just picture that and see that's where they're going with it.
Yeah.
It's already been shot, brother. You're catching that motherfucker now.
Yeah.
And now you got to run with it from there.
Yeah,
And I am blown away.
Yeah. So everybody who, like I said, we're trying to get back to a state of normalcy. But yeah, if you guys can watch that movie, go ahead and check that out. But we also we're going through certain times, right? Where things aren't open, certain things aren't open, certain things were open and now they're closing, and we're going back and forth in that realm, and we don't really know what's going on. So recently bars had just been reopened in California, and then they had just talked about closing them back up.
Well, they're closed.
Well, they're closed, right?
That's right. So, anyone that knows me knows that I'm as I've been told, a social butterfly. I don't really care for that, but whatever. Point being is, man, you know, so they open restaurants, right? So restaurants are open, and if you go to restaurants, you know, restaurants have bars, you know, and I would go and I'm like, yeah, drinks. Typically would go like people that I work with. Again, that's been a popular theme that I've said, but I'm going with people I know that I'm around anyway. But we'd go to like, let's say your local Lazy Dogs, for example. No, let's use Applebee's. I like Applebee's.
The bees.
I don't like it, but we're gonna use it because it's from the movie. I forget what's the movie. Owen Wilson. And when they're like, oh, take a mental picture.
Oh, Hall Pass.
Hall Pass.
Hall
There it
Pass.
is. There it is.
Yeah.
Applebee's. That's where they went. You know what I mean? And that's basically the world I live in now. You know what I mean? At fucking Applebee's. Let's go. Anyway, so it was open for a little bit, and they shut them down. And my personal opinion is, you know, like don't dangle the dollar in my face. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh man, it's right there. Yeah. And you get to like hold the dollar and then like, psych, that's just mine again. You know what I mean? Go back home. And I'm like, no. And that's how I feel.
I just came out of my house.
Yeah. And so for me, like the impact is great. You know what I mean? Like this was me getting back to normalcy, getting back and like, okay, maybe it's not everything that I used to do, but it was like a good start, you know? And also, too, I think there's a lot of people that work in restaurants and work in these kind of fields. And then they went back to work for 2-3 weeks. And then it's just like, oh, you're out of a job again. You know what I mean?
And for me in particular, I have been on some nutrition plan for months now, and it didn't really affect me. And I also have a 7-year-old daughter that I just can't really put her in jeopardy with me going out at all. Really, I got to wait a little bit until, you know, something comes along, maybe some kind of vaccine or something like that. So I have not gone out to any kind of restaurants, but I do want to stress people, like Ken said, people who are looking, like people who work in the industry, the restaurant industry. Yes, they do need jobs, but I do stress the fact that if you are a restaurant employee, that if I read a report that said a lot of these restaurants aren't following safety protocols and they're not doing these things. If you are going back to work, hopefully we get back to that state again. But if you're not, go ahead and try to be that voice of reason and call things out and try to make it so that we can safely reopen some of these establishments so that the economy, so that people can pay their bills, so we can just get back to a point where we can open these kind of things up and get back to, like you said, that normalcy that comes with that.
Yeah. Even speaking on that, I would assume, too, working in that environment, it's probably very iffy to speak out. It's probably very like, oh, I'd rather not because I'm going to get let go. You know, I mean, you worked at a restaurant. Am I not mistaken?
I was a dishwasher.
Yeah, all
At
right.
16, yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, I wasn't happy with their standards then.
Yeah.
I felt I have never eaten at that restaurant again.
I want to eat there. I've always wanted to. I drive by it and I'm always like, man.
Where? Applebee's?
No.
Or
not
the restaurant I worked
the
at?
one you worked at.
Oh, yeah.
I've always wanted to. One of these days,
Go for it.
I'll call you and ask you what I should get. You know, what's safe? You know,
anything that's not on a plate.
All right, looks like I'm never going.
Well,
you know what I
you
mean?
can get a sandwich. Maybe a
I'm
meatball sandwich or
I don't want
something.
a fucking sandwich. Come on, man. But yeah, you know, and also, yeah, to James's point though, you know, I do think, man, you know, and we live in a world where you have the opportunity to say something without saying it there too. You know what I mean? Like you do. I know I have a friend of mine who works, I think, for Coco's, and she posts shit all the time, like, look at this shit, you know, and I'm always like, oh man, yeah. And she'll be like, oh, you come by, say hi. I'm like, no, I don't either. You know what I mean? No thanks.
But how common do you think it is that there is at least one person on the staff that is really tight with the manager?
Oh, everywhere. Yeah.
So if you were not comfortable speaking out, go to that person that can sway the manager.
But even then, you know how that goes. You'll go to them and they'll be like, hey, James over here, you need to let him go. He's making waves.
Well, make sure you're good with that person. That's good with the manager.
You got to build a lot of bonds. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was just something we wanted to talk about. The bars, man. So how you guys feel about it? We're very interested. Let us know. Are you upset that bars are closed? Do you think it's a good thing? Do you think, hey, it's about time they close? Why they open them? Me personally, again, I'm like, just open a bar. You know what I mean? Like, I'm gonna sit at a table. I don't need to be. To James' point, yeah. I've been out and seen it. Like, oh no, you shouldn't be like that. What are you doing over there? I stay in my zone. So you know, let us know. Let us know where you at with it. How you feel. So it's something I wanted to talk to James about. I was talking to somebody the other day. Like, yeah, I got my regular scheduled doctor's appointment. And I was like, what? And then I thought, like, yeah, like I just made a eye doctor appointment, and I only made it out of necessity. I wear contact lenses, and I was like, I'm out. You know what I mean? It wasn't like, oh, I'm getting low. No, I'm like, I need them today.
He was blind as a bat, probably.
Yeah, yeah. And so I was like, hey, you know what? I gotta go. But it made me think, like, I don't go to the doctor. Like last time I went to the doctor, I broke my arm in half, and I was like, shit, I gotta go to the doctor. I don't want to go there. I didn't want to go then. You know what I mean? Like, if there's another means, I would have probably took it. So, James, I'm curious, man. Are you a doctor guy? You get checkups? You follow up on yourself?
No, I think the last 3 times I've been to the doctor, I've waited so long for the issue that I've had to go to the emergency room. One of them was a gastritis, the inner lining of my stomach was fucked up because of the nutrition I was on. But for the most part, to be honest with you, my mom made me go to the emergency room. And so the last 3 times it's been that I'm not a yearly physical guy. Well, for work,
well, for work, yes.
But,
and I take that as like, all well.
Yeah.
Well,
because they're just screening you, right? Kind of. They're not doing.
Like
they're not doing
shit.
Yeah, they're not doing too much.
Good enough.
But I'm not a doctor guy either. I'm not someone who's gonna go to the doctor. And I'm gonna be honest with you. There's people who go to their chiropractor regularly. They got physical therapy, this and that. And I lift weights 5 to 6 days a week. Yeah. And the thing is, I am always in some kind of discomfort, some kind of pain that I'm working through, and it's just part of it, so I'm not someone who jumps straight for the doctor the appointment, but no. So for me, I don't go to the doctor regularly at all.
Right. Like I said, literally the last time I went to the doctor on my own, outside of like a work physical I had to take, I broke my arm. I snapped the whole fucking thing in half.
Let me see the scar.
That's if you guys can see that, there's one scar, and then you got the other side there. Okay. We'll put some photos up. You know what I mean? Don't worry. I'll show you what happened. My whole shit, literally, the top of my arm and my bottom of my arm were disconnected.
They weren't friends anymore.
Yeah, they were like, "Hey, I hate you. You got to move out of town." You know what I mean? The other part was like, "I ain't going nowhere. I'm just gonna move over a little bit." But basically, that's the last time I went, and that involved many visits to the doctor. Like initial visit where they tried to put it back in place, and they're like, "Hey, shit's fucked, dude. We can't even put it back. We gotta schedule you for surgery." A week later, I come back, get surgery. And then following the surgery was you gotta get the stitches out, and then following that was physical therapy. And I was like, I've been to the doctor more in the last month than I have in the last 10 years. Like what am I doing here? And it's just not for me. But even that evening, like you said, the weight and everything, like I get there and my arm, I go to the preliminary station, and they're like, oh my God, you need to get, like, your arm is terrible. You need to get fast track. Go up there and tell them that I told you. Gives me his name, whatever department. I go to the window. The lady's like, and let me make this clear to you guys. I had fallen into a river. Okay, so I'm soaking wet. I'm literally left, and then I had to hike back down through the river, so I'm even more wet. I had to cross this shit several times, and I'm not gonna jump across this shit again. My arm's hanging on by skin. You know what I mean? So I'm just gonna get wet again. And then I get there, I'm literally walking through the hospital. My shoes are squeaking through the halls. There's like a footprint track of water following me everywhere I went. And I walk up to the window, and I'm like, yeah, like they told me to tell you, like, yeah, I have to come in. And they were like, look around. You're not the only one. Get in line. And I'm like, understood. 3 hours I waited to get in. And I'm like, dude, it got to the point, like, you don't even feel it anymore. You know what I mean? Like, it's just too much pain. You don't even feel it anymore. Obviously, I'm not in a rush to go back to that. You know what I mean? Like, for what? And that was like worst case scenario. Now that's what you get. But so, just throwing it out there, man. I definitely don't go regularly. And I'm curious. I'd like to understand from people who do. Because here's the thing, I get a physical, and I literally one day I get this physical, and then the guy tells me, he's like, "Are you serious?" And I'm looking at him like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "No, seriously, are you serious?" And he was like, "What do you do?" And I was like, "What do you mean? What do I like? What are you talking about?" He's like, "These are the best numbers I've seen probably in my entire time." And I'm like, "Me?" you're not talking about my numbers. And he's like, seriously? Your numbers are exactly where you want to be. And I'm like, no, what? And this is all like the nutritional, your lipoids and lipids and fucking white blood count and white blood cells. And
I want to point out genetics. I can't. There's no way. There's no way to explain that.
Yeah, because I live like everyone that knows me, I don't think you'd believe it. You'd like, this guy's full of shit.
See, even as he's telling me the story, I'm like, you're about to tell me that he's like distraught by your results.
Yeah,
but he's not. It's the opposite. I'm fucking wrong.
Yeah.
So genetics. I'm pointing out genetics again. I just can't get away from that.
That means James and I would have both had the same physical, and this gentleman was like, wow. And James eats good, works out, is health conscious, and I'm like, let's go get shit faced. You know what I mean? And eat in and out. I don't give a fuck. You know what I mean? And so to me, it was like reassurance. Like, well, I don't care. I'll do what I want. You know what I mean? Like, and you can't tell me anything different. So
yeah. And I know Anthony. He came off a very troubling neck injury, like that he dealt with for a long time. So he is someone I think that has gone to chiropractic. I'm in the office and he's watching chiropractic videos on Instagram, and I'm like, dude, you were in this shit.
Oh, Anthony is Anthony.
He wants to get his neck pulled. Like,
he told me that. I was like, what?
I can't watch those videos.
I know. I was like, what? What is that?
They're so disgusting. But he creams for them. I said it.
Yeah, you did.
And I think he does.
I think he does too.
I think he does.
I could watch videos, and here's another thing. I could watch videos of people getting their heads cut off, like these cartel videos. I'll watch them. I don't know why. I don't know what it is. It also leads into where we're gonna go here. But I'm like, and I'm disgusted by it. But I'm like, I gotta watch it. And they're just. I saw one the other day. This guy cuts this girl's arm off, and she's fully aware of it. Cuts her arm off, and she's handcuffed. So now she swings the other arm around, handcuffed to the arm that just got cut off. Then he cuts that arm off. And then he cuts her head off. And then he cuts both her, like, from the knee downs off. And I'm just like, number one, man, we live in a fucked up world. You know, like, that's all I can think is like,
yeah, holy shit.
Yeah, like, holy shit, dude.
Those links will not be in the YouTube description.
Yeah, we're going to get arrested for those links, okay? But
those links are secret.
The fucked up thing is like, okay, so I'll watch that, and for me, it's always like, I need to have a grasp on what reality is. This shit happens, okay? Don't take anything for granted. Don't think, hey, oh, it's all cool. This doesn't, no. I need to constantly remind myself, stay in your lane, understand what's going on, know that at any moment, somebody can fucking cut your arms off, then your head,
then your legs,
and then continue to maim you. You know what I mean? Like, it happens.
Yeah,
and it's disgusting.
Yeah,
but
humans have always been a brutal species.
Yeah. Which, you know what? So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna lead that into our next segue. Okay, and that the main topic we want to jump into tonight, for all of you guys out there listening, it's gonna be the news. And that might sound a little like, the news. What are you gonna get into? But if you think about the news, I challenge you to tell me, when's the last time you watched the news and saw positive things on the news? Typically, what I see on the news is all negative shit. You know, it's all driven by negativity. Whether it's murder, whether it's, oh, this guy was a rapist, this guy's a pedophile. Even if you know, in recent times, even if you look at like the coronavirus kind of things, it's just all, oh man, you better do this, you're gonna die. You better do this, or this is what's gonna happen. You're gonna get it ventilated. You're gonna get all of these things. I think it's so many things going on with current situations that the news has this responsibility to report to you, and they do report it to you.
Yeah, but it's like a person coming out on a gurney for COVID-19, and then it's like, but stay tuned for how you can improve your blood pressure with this simple vegetable.
Right.
It's news and then fluff and then bullshit.
Even like you said, like, how are you gonna improve your blood sugar? But even then, and that is such a minuscule portion of it, right? It's like, we're gonna terrify you, but you better do this, and then we're back to terrifying you again. We're gonna scare the shit out of you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So me thinking about this and especially coming up with this, I thought, you know, man, the more I look at it, the more that I see like I said, and not to say necessarily negativity, but just like in a vibe of to scare you. And right now is the greatest example of it. It's the coronavirus. An example I'll give you is initially it comes out and it's like, well, you need the N95 mask. If you don't have that, you might as well not wear shit. Then it's just, we'll get a surgical mask. That'll be great. Then it's a cloth mask. And then it's just tie anything around your fucking face and you're good. And you know.
And then there was also don't wear a mask.
Well, you got that side.
You know, no, but these are coming from health professionals that are saying the mask isn't helping you. So now you got that conflicting. So it's like it's everything from the N95 to don't wear one, to wear the surgical, to wear a bandana, and so they jump around constantly, and that's what the news is feeding us.
Right, and to that point, it's just, but the main thing that I think they're doing is telling you what are the results if you don't. Right? Like, whatever we're saying, wear this mask, that mask, that mask. And if you don't, here's the gurney coming out. Here's a dude sitting here with a ventilator because they can't breathe. Here's that. And I'm not saying they're wrong.
They might as well be talking and have that little window behind them with the little skull with the crossbones.
Yeah.
And that's just what it is.
Do it or die.
Yeah, do it or die.
Yeah. And I again, I'm not challenging the information necessarily. I'm challenging the tactic and how they're delivering the information, right? I don't, and also I would say I am challenging the fact that there's conflicting information being delivered, and we'll get into that in a moment. But the main thing I'm trying to say with that, where we're at right now, is just that I think most of it is going to be negative. If you look at it and you see it, and this is from my perspective, and I'd like to gain your insight on it as well, James. But I remember I can watch a police chase. It's usually boring. Majority of it is boring. Here they are. They're just driving down this fucking freeway, chasing them. But they're way behind, whatever. But we understand where we're going here.
99% of it's boring?
Yeah, oh yeah.
The 1%.
Oh yeah, you're waiting for that bit, that fucking, the payload, if you would.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? No, the money shot.
The money shot.
The money shot.
The
You're
money
waiting
shot.
for the money shot.
Yes.
What happens in the end? How does this wrap up? All right?
Yeah.
But if you notice when those would happen, you flip to this channel, you flip to that channel, you flip to that channel. They're all covering the same thing.
Yeah.
Why? Because we're all, as consumers, we are all waiting for that money shot.
The money shot.
That's it.
We're all chasing it.
That's all we want. And you stay tuned. And here's the reality. What is the money shot? Dude crashes and dies. Dude gets out, gets shot and dies. If it ends peacefully, you're like, I wasted my 3 fucking hours watching this chase.
At the very least, you need a tackle.
Yeah, I need something.
Unnecessary tackle.
Yeah, I want him to get out. I mean, I'm looking for like the North Hollywood shooting, like get out, fucking assault rifles, shoot out. Because I
like the stop, get out and run, and then all the cops that are chasing you stop and get out and chase you. And I just know, like, okay, here comes a real tackle with like 12 cops.
Oh yeah, and they're gonna jump on your ass. You know,
and they got a spotlight going. It's theatrical.
Yeah. Well, but the point I think is though, what I took from that is that. But we're waiting for that fucked up moment to happen. You know, we're waiting for like the violence. And this is what I think the news has gauged and understands, that us as consumers, us as humans, American humans, are really waiting for the violence. And I think they get that. I watched something today, and the young lady that was speaking said, "If it bleeds, it leads." And this was she was a journalist. This was a TED Talk I watched, and she was a journalist and kind of highlighting the perspective of the current state of where news is and what you're actually getting. But what was told to her was, if it bleeds, it leads.
Yeah, and I want to say this just for everybody who's listening. Every single thing that you consume is driven by data.
Oh yeah.
Even the stuff that deals with let's just say mental health. Stuff that deals with the news, they all got numbers, and the numbers dictate when and how they deliver that message to you,
and what that message is to you.
Right. So it's in every single form of media you consume. There's data there that determines the best time to give it to you, what you prefer, how you like it, how it benefits them, what's the most beneficial times of the day, who consumes this. All of that information is covered. So like when Ken's saying, they understand what they're doing. this is where he's kind of going with this. It's we have to understand why they're perpetuating this kind of content.
Yeah. Why are they delivering? Why is that what they're feeding us? It's not because that's what they want to feed us necessarily, but it's because that's what we're asking them to feed us. And again, I think we understand, like, as a society, I think in America especially, I think we're so afraid of everything. We're afraid of it. So let's use the current situation now, the coronavirus. So whether you believe what they're saying or you don't, but you pay attention to what they're saying, either it's to debunk it, or it's because you're like, oh, I need to know what I need to do. I want to stay safe. Regardless, this shit draws you in. You're concerned. You're like, hey, what do I need to do tomorrow? You focus on that. And to be fair, I think the mainstream news makes it to where they understand that that's what you're worried about, and mainly they want to provide scare tactics, in my opinion. Because if I know, like, hey, I got him, he's over there now, he's worried. James is worried. Because coronavirus is out. He wants to protect it. He's, like I said, he has a 7-year-old. He has this, his family. He doesn't want them to be in harm's way. He wants to know, how do I protect them? Mm-hmm. Well, tune in tomorrow. You know what I mean? And so, okay, so you do. And they give you this, whatever. And then the next day, breaking news, updates. And you're like, shit, I thought I was prepared. I got to tune in again. And that is the point, right? Like I said, if it bleeds, it leads. People are dying. People are murdered. As the consumer watching that, we want to understand. Like I said, I'm the guy that's like, I don't know. Fuck what the news is going to show me. I want to watch the actual video. I'm twisted, fucked up man.
Yeah, well, Ken's trying to go all the way in.
Yeah. But however, like I said earlier, it's because I want to understand what the world really is. And the news, I think, understands. I think most of us want to understand how to, and not to see, I need to see it, but how do I protect myself from it? So if you live in, let's say you live in Riverside County, let's throw that out there, and you're like, hey, Riverside County, highest number of COVID-19 ever going on. You're like, shit, I better tune in, because now you're worried. You know what I mean? You want to understand what's going on, and that's what they got you. And if you look at today's news, the way that it is, it's all ratings driven. It's all television wise, right? So if you television wise, ratings driven, internet wise is going to be ad driven, so views. How do I get you to come here? You got to have catching headlines, right? So if I could get something that's going to scare you and make you like, shit, I better look into that. Then you jump in. And that's where I say something like this magnitude, a pandemic, or even like the Black Lives Matter, for that matter, right? And you guys heard how I felt about that on the other episode. But I think I can see how mainstream media can turn that into a profit for themselves. Yeah. And take that and say, hey, you know what? Oh, you want to hear about that? Especially when you consider internet and there's the algorithms that understand what you are looking at and then gear it all towards you. Because we know you already like that. And then there's the other side. Well, I disagree. All lives matter. Well, we understand that you like that. So here's a bunch of shit for you now. And that's how it works today.
Yeah. And I don't think a lot of people understand that. So when, like, for instance, the Black Lives Matter versus, let's just say, the All Lives Matter. Mm-hmm. When you're on like a site like Instagram, if you are somebody who likes Black Lives Matter content, you don't see the other side.
Yeah.
And if you're on the All Lives Matter, Instagram's not feeding you the other side. So we can understand why that's not a conducive platform to getting immersed in the other argument or being exposed to the other argument, because it is simply not going to give you that. Like Ken said, it gives you what you already, it gears you up for what you already are into. So it's one of those things where you have to be very careful about your media consumption and how you get it. And I think that we have all been victims of, at times, of feeding our own beliefs because we've gone down a certain path. It doesn't mean that is the correct path.
Absolutely, man. You know, man, I agree with everything you just said. And so to me, man, what I think you have to identify is simply something of this factor. The media, the mainstream American television news stream is predominantly driven by A few people. There's about 5, 6 different groups that actually run that media stream, and that's going to be your AT&Ts, your Comcast, Disney, Viacom, and Fox.
And really quick for the listeners, can you give me the revenue?
Okay, so I have a generalization, so let's just keep that in mind. But I mean, so we're gonna say like AT&T, you're looking at about $170 billion. Comcast, you're looking at about 94 billion. Disney is looking at about 60 billion. Viacom's coming in at a close fourth at about 28 billion. That was rounding it up, but you know. And then Fox is coming in about 10 billion. And now, I mean, you got to understand how many different media streams that's owned with that. So if we're gonna go AT&T, I want to point that out. It's HBO, Cinemax, Cartoon Network, Adult Swim, HLN, NBA TV, TBS, TNT, True TV, Turner Classic Movies, Sportsnet. So there you go. You know what I mean? Look at how many different platforms they have to communicate their point across. And something I really wanted to point out was this. We all know who Jeff Bezos is, right? This is the owner of Amazon. This is one of the most richest people that we have within our country. This gentleman's rich beyond what I imagine anyone listening to this podcast can understand. But he's rich, and what does he do? He buys printed publications. He buys the Washington Post, he buys the Wall Street Journal, and he buys the New York Times. Those three things there do not make money. They're not money makers. And when you consider who he is and what he does, he predominantly, I mean, he's going to invest in things that make money. It's known. Everyone listening to this understands that printed media is a thing of the past. However, when you consider this, printed media is where real journalism lives. The people who are actually going to go out, are going to investigate, who are going to really do the research, do the homework, put all the time in. That's where, let's call it this. John Oliver pointed out himself. He has an episode entitled Journalism, and in which he points out the fact that his show even is takes a lot of things from printed media, from printed newspapers, and that's where he gauges a lot of what's going on. And he references those platforms. He says, hey, this is coming from this source. So when you consider that, things of that nature, most of your television news is based upon the journalism done by printed media. When you take that into consideration, now you're starting to paint a picture of why Jeff Bezos would purchase a failing company. Why? It doesn't matter. I have the money to keep them afloat. I could keep them going. The money is not relevant. I don't need you to make money. What I need you to do is paint the portrait that I want you to paint. I want to control that. And you can understand why someone in his stature and his power level needs to make sure. If you've heard any of the things that have ever come out about, like Amazon, how shitty they treat their workers, there's full videos on YouTube about the poor conditions. I have a few friends. One of my friends, let's say her first name. One of my good friends, Mary, man, she actually works for Amazon, and she's told me herself, like, you know, they get very tight about breaks, about this, that. And my question would become, like, what part are they essential workers? But they've worked this whole time. I work in pharmaceuticals, and so we can understand, like, you can understand how you can make the connection between that being essential, right? But Amazon, what do I care if you get your fucking dildos? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, and Amazon has a knowing. There's a knowing that they also sell information to the government. Like, there's a program that takes all of your information that they get through Alexa, all your shopping preferences, everything is funneled through, and there's money made there. There's a whole program that I think Snowden talked about on the Joe Rogan
Richard
podcast.
Snowden, yeah.
He talks about how
a whistleblower.
So how he talks about how they actually sell your information there. So when you hear about him buying up these printed media, you understand that most of what people consume, and if you can control that, that's where the benefit comes from. So it's not a moneymaker.
Don't care about the money.
But there's a control that comes with that. That's kind of fucked up.
So we're not looking at it as a moneymaker. No, it is a moneymaker in a sense of I am swaying the judgment of the people in the world, right? Like I'm swaying what people are perceiving that I'm doing. And if you take a minute and you look into billionaires, I'd say too, if you look at the list I gave you of people, the companies that are basically run TV media, well, they own the printed media too. And that's where the real journalism is done. However, and these are billionaires. You get me? Like these guys, when I'm saying billions, you got to put that in perspective a little bit and understand that. Well, we know millionaires, right? Like, okay, like I rappers are millionaires, movie stars are millionaires. Nobody cares. Okay, like, and no, I'm saying, like, I think, man, like, James, I'm sure you can concur with what I'm getting at here. Oh, it'd be great.
Oh yeah.
But when we're talking about power, billionaires are those are the people that are like, you're not in my club, and you'll never be in my club because you don't own printed media. Because you know what I do? And consider what printed media, like I just said, that's where every other news outlet is getting their information. And then understand, how do we vote? Where do we get our information on what we vote on? Media, whether it's printed media, whether it's So if I own a printed media, that's what the televised media is based upon, and that's what the social media is based upon, and social media to an extent. And we're going to jump into that in a minute. But social media is based upon, all these other aspects are based upon, I control largely I control the perspective of what the people in this country are going to see and what they're going to consume. And with that, I can sway elections. And I'm going to sway them in a way that benefits my agenda because I can do so now. So why does a billionaire, some guy that's obviously financially savvy, purchase something that's clearly an expired commodity? It's clearly outdated. Why? That's where the world... So you don't get to put that story out. Oh, did I do some weird shit? Was my company failing? Or not failing, but is my company not providing adequate resources for employees? You don't get to put that out. I shut it down. I shut it down quick and fast. It's basically Hitler type mentalities, you know what I mean? What is it? Gestapo mentalities, I think is what I was referred to. So consider that, man. This man Jeff Bezos in particular, owns the Washington Post, the Wall Street Journal, and the New York Times. And one of those in particular, I'd say the Wall Street Journal. And that one to me seems so powerful in the aspect of people that want to jump into, like, you know what, I want to start getting into this stock world, you know, mutual funds, these kind of aspects. You resort to something which you trust, and that's another thing I want to bring up is you look at the newspaper, whatever the outlet you're looking at, and you place a certain level of trust into that particular platform, right? And trust is a contract. It means saying, hey, I will subscribe to what you're doing or whatever it is because I think you have a level of responsibility to provide to the community, to the society, to the country, to whatever it is that your market is. We have that established. When the reality is that you find out later, these are controlled by a very small group of people who then have significant financial gain that they can get from it. If I'm Jeff Bezos, my company's publicly traded. I own other companies. I invest in other companies. I own the Wall Street Journal. And so maybe the other people that are in the know, they don't give a shit about the Wall Street Journal.
Yeah.
But the yous and me's and all of us in the world, that especially if you're new to that industry, you rely heavily on a Wall Street Journal. I remember my father got into stocks. He was all in. He used to wake me up. I think I said it the other day. He used to wake me up at fucking 5 in the morning. Go get on the computer. I was trading stocks as a little boy. You know what I mean? The funny thing is though, man, he was reading the Wall Street Journal, and now hearing that and thinking of that now, I'm like, man, they're not trying to influence the people that are already in the know. Those people they're making their money. They're good. The money is in tricking the yous and me's. We are the blind people taking this and thinking this is like I said again, it's a trust factor. We put that trust in this publication. And we take that and think, okay, well, this is real facts. Okay, this company's coming out. They're going to be great. He's already short sold this stock. He don't give a shit. But you guys run this story. And now, and I've never once heard. That's insider trading, dude. Like, you know what I mean? Like, but do you hear that? You don't hear that.
No, you don't. And that's where I think that because of the way that they, like you just talked about AT&T, and you listed all the companies of the networks that they are pretty much in charge of, and we don't see the world in that aspect. We see a channel, right? We see like NBA TV. I personally have NBA TV, right? But I don't see the bigger picture from there. I don't see the owner. And like you said, anytime you have a few billionaires that are responsible for what gets out there and the narrative that's pushed and the stories that are out there in a very indirect way, you don't see that. So they're able to kind of play freely in
Right.
how that media affects the yous and me's, right? So that's where I think a lot of this, there's issues with this, and there's definitely a dollar amount attached to how they operate, and that to me is a huge problem.
Well, and that's what I was saying, man. Like, you gotta understand, like, billionaires don't purchase things that don't make money, right? Like, they've made money on making acquisitions of things that make money. They find them before they get discovered, and that's what they do. So to buy something that is clearly outdated, you have to be able to look through the bullshit and see what's going on there. And with that, I'd like to point out the fact all of those news platforms are great, but we're lucky enough to live in a world where we have social media. And social media has allowed us the perspective where I don't give it. There's no agenda. If James posts something he wants me to see, I see it. That's it. Whatever his agenda is great, cool, but I get to see it. And everyone else that I follow. And I mean, people, you got Facebook, you got Instagram, you got Twitter, you got all these things where people get to have a voice, right? And lucky enough for us, some people out there really put in the homework and the research into trying to educate us. And so what you get from that, one of the things I want to highlight is a very recent situation in which a young military girl, Vanessa
Guillen, I think it is.
Yeah, we'll say that again. I apologize if I'm saying it incorrectly. However, this young lady is murdered on a U.S. Army base.
Yeah, well, initially she goes missing.
What? Whoa. Oh,
Right?
yeah, you're right. So
Initially,
she's
she goes
missing. Her family is like, hey, she's missing. Nobody gives a fuck. Nobody does anything, right? Luckily enough, though, they were able to push a big enough social media expectation and influence. Hey, guys, repost, and people do. And that's the beauty of it. I want to point out real quick, James. I'll give you a second. But people send regular ass people. We're not billionaires. We never were. You know what I mean? And we don't need to be. I think we're comfortable enough with a comfortable life. However, some people, you get here and you have to stay there by any means. And whatever. Regular people stand together. And here's the reality, man, is that we have the power to take anything on. We are the majority. Regular people are the majority. And that's what you see here. Is through these other platforms, which is lucky enough that we live in a time that we have those available to us. You post on Instagram, and then you posted, James. I see it. I'm like, man, he's right. I repost it. So you got 100 people to look at it. I reposted it. We got another 100. There's 200, and then both of those 200 now reposted it. And now we're look at these numbers that we're getting at. And that's something I think that these mainstream media outlets didn't count on. And even now, I think they counter it and they put it's bullshit. But you chime in, my man.
Well, I just think that there's certain aspects, like you have this girl who went missing, right? In my perspective, in my lifetime, I've had family in military, I've had family in prison. Those are two places where you shouldn't go missing, right? Like,
Oh yeah, you accounted for it.
When you go to prison, you know where they are. When you go to the military, you know where you are. You're owned by the government, but you are on a base. You are under the protection of the government, right? Similar to you are in a prison. You shouldn't go missing. So if you are, like, if someone goes missing, like this girl here, Vanessa, if you are missing and somebody says, "Hey, I don't know where my daughter is. I don't know where my family is," that needs to be addressed and it needs to be looked into immediately. And like you said, there's a lot of social media that can help that. But I think the bigger picture is that you need these establishments, right? Like the U.S. Army, to be able to give you an answer right away, to be able to look into that. But it's not until you get on the social media and you repost and you bring light to it that it does happen. And like Ken said, we are the majority, no matter what they say. Once the majority shines a light on it, we have power. And that needs to be exercised because we have that ability. Social media in some aspects does give you the ability to call out certain issues. And this is one of those particular issues that this girl went missing, and it wasn't until it gained traction through social media that there was an investigation and there was findings from that. And I think that's a huge issue. If my work sends me to let's just say Burlingame, and you call my job because I haven't responded, I guarantee you they'll give you an answer. Like, it just, that needs to be something that happens. So in this particular case, that girl went missing, and we needed the fucked up part is that we needed social media to be able to highlight the fact that there was an issue there. It wasn't like the U.S. Army was notifying the family like, "Hey, there's this girl missing, and we're gonna do everything in our power to find out what happened." That is a huge issue. But the other scary part about that is that I think one of the worst places to go missing is the U.S. Army.
Why?
Well, not the U.S. Army, but I think one of the worst places to go missing is the military base. I think that if you have somebody that's in the military, and specifically a female, right?
On a U.S. soil military base.
Right. So I think that if like my daughter, for instance, okay, to take my daughter, take 15 years in the future, she joined the military. I'm worried if she's missing
on a U.S. soil military base.
On U.S. military
because you know
soil.
what happened.
Yes, because of the implications and the scenarios that are going through my head as a family member. I think that is very highly. It's an issue that I have to worry about because I don't know what's supposed to happen there. I don't know, but she is under the care of the U.S. government.
Right. And to that point, I think too, what James just said, like, you're on an army base, army and prison. They know where you at. They knew she was missing before anybody else did. There's no fucking mistake in that. They knew before anybody else did. Same as in prison. They check on you all the time. You wake up in the morning, you're not there. Guess what? We know you're not here. Same in the army. You don't report to duty? Oh, we know you didn't report to duty. What the fuck? And what happened there? And if no one did anything else, and then look, I saw some stories today, man. I was looking into it, and I don't know. This is based on Instagram, but it seems like today Instagram is if not as the same, more reliable than the mainstream shit that you're getting anyway. And that's the point I'm trying to make, is that's the bullshit about it. But I saw today, like, oh man, this chick was murdered in a U.S. Fort Hood military base in the armory, brutally murdered. And nobody said a fucking thing about it. And you know, man, I say it in the way I'm saying it because that's absolutely disgusting and unacceptable to my. And then the point I think we're trying to make is that, well, this wasn't mainstream reported. You know the only way I've ever heard about this, me personally, and I'll tell you the truth, I don't watch news every day. However, periodically I check in, and I have yet to see anything in any real regards about any of this. I've only seen so through the gracious good of the majority, like I said, posting these things, reposting these things, saying, hey guys, we need to raise a fucking point about this, what's going on? And then you hear, and then what do you hear? Oh, they found some remains. An anonymous tip said, hey, go look here. This is and if that's the case, then how shitty is our U.S. military? Sincerely, and I know they're better than that. Absolutely know they are. But the point is, they let it be portrayed like, oh, we got a tip. We're going to go check here. Oh, we found some remains. And all of a sudden, as soon as they do, homeboy who knew her and is involved, supposedly, allegedly involved, I will say, kills himself.
Yeah. And I think it's three others.
Three others arrested right after.
Right.
It seems pretty fucking point blank to me that obviously there's a lot of shit going on that they didn't want us to know about.
Yeah.
But luckily enough, we have a outlet like a social media.
And you know what's fucked up? If not for social media, would we know?
Would we fucking know? No.
I don't think so.
No. Well, how would it? And imagine being the fucking family members sitting there, like, do something and no one knows.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying, man. And that's to me, that's the disgusting thing that we're dealing with. And again, I don't know. If you have some insight, you want to tell me I'm wrong, by all means, let me know. But from where I'm sitting, I can't understand something like that. Like to James' point again, you're in the military. You don't go missing for days with no one noticing. It doesn't happen.
It doesn't.
You are accounted for step by step. And I mean,
yeah, and I just want to give condolences to that fucking family.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Honestly,
hearts go out.
I think anytime you have family that goes to the military, there's pride there. I think that you send them off in hopes that they're going to be okay. And it sucks the fact that it happened on our soil and it happened under the care of it. It's not like she was a victim of war. She was a victim of her circumstances in our country. And I think that's tragic. And, huge condolences to that family. It's a tragedy in my eyes. There ain't no way around it. That it's sad.
Well, and again, I think it's a demonstration of what the majority can do if they want to. Very small piece of the pie of what if people here in this country unite. Understand too, man. They don't call it 1% for no reason. It's the 1% because it's 1%. That means 99% is still out there. And like sincerely though, I mean, it's just like. It's without getting too crazy, right? But just consider those numbers. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, you got a lot of money and that's great. All right, good for you. But you don't get to do things like this.
Yeah, and like we're bringing up all these issues because we're trying to highlight the fact that the media is predominantly owned by a selected few individuals, and I think that we want to encourage everybody to understand the power that you have and what you consume and how you see your side and how you see the other side and how it influences your choices to be able to call out these issues and call out these scenarios in which you do have real power, being the majority. And you need to exercise that, because once you allow yourself to not be part of that majority perpetuation of things, you're really just sitting on the sideline. And I think that this is one of those cases that's very, I almost feel like in the social climate that we're under, I almost felt like the government and everybody, the powers that be, kind of thought that this was going to go under the radar. And when social media
tried to sweep it there,
right? And when social media got a hold of it and people were outraged by this, there's hopefully fucking justice that comes from it, because this kind of shit can happen.
Right. And absolutely right. Again, the point I'm trying to make is just simply to say, so all it is, we have this negative news vibe, right? And I mean, I think even with the social media aspect, like we still have this negative news vibe. However, sometimes, man, you can highlight the negativity the injustice being done upon you, and you can get some results, right? Um, but I wanna point out the fact too, and well, I'm gonna just throw this too. I think if you look at social media, it's actually been a good thing to be able to, I mean, in my opinion, is to highlight the fact of what an individual, a regular person, can do. If you look at the George Floyd thing, why do we know about it? Some regular dude had his camera out. Recently in Norco, there's a bunch of shit. I actually heard they were like shutting down the city at a certain time, 6 p.m., because it's just too crazy. But why? And you see videos of people walking down the streets, and you got people screaming racial slurs at them and just doing all. And what I thought, to me, what I took from that was like, a lot of people say racism is dead. You know what I mean? Like I've heard that many times in my life, and I always thought like, no, it's just they hide it better. But I think right now what you can see is that no one is hiding it. I mean, a group of people aren't hiding it. It's blunt. It's in your face. They're screaming it at you. There's literally. You seen the video? The dudes standing in front of the yard, assault rifles. Yeah, the recent video. The chick comes outside. She has, and everyone that I saw too. If you know anything about gun safety, if you've ever done anything with gun safety, you don't put your finger on the trigger until you're ready to pull that shit. And this chick's outside in her front lawn, finger on the trigger, pointing it at people walking by her house. Nothing happened to this individual. You guys you guys know where I'm going with that. You know what she is, and you understand what I'm saying. And if you don't, you know, man, read a fucking book. You know what I mean? But like, sincerely, man, you don't see these things without the aspect of social media. It allows us, and like I said, the minority, really the majority. You know what I mean? Like, we are the majority.
The minority is the majority.
The minority is the majority, and that's the thing. It's like, man, you know, you hear the statement, the quote, divided you fall, united you stand. You know what I mean? I think it was the other way: united you stand, divided you fall. But I mean, sincerely, that is the reality, man. And if there's anything that I wanted to convey through this platform right now, is that is the reality of it. And we sit here and we bicker and we fight about waste of time things. You know what I mean? I think the majority, everyone I know in my life and my world stands up and thinks human rights matter. You know what I mean? Maybe we have different perspectives on how those rights matter, but you shouldn't be murdering. You shouldn't be running outside like I'm going to murder you. You know what I mean? Like, that's unacceptable to me, you know, and it's just, again, back to what the topic is, right? It's the news streams and what we see. We are fortunate enough, and which only to me goes to highlight the fact of what were things before you had these opportunities where people can, hey, I can record you right now, and I can show this, and I not only can I record you, but I could get it out to the world on my own. You go 20 years ago, you didn't have that capability. You could have recorded it, but you'd have to go to someone else to put it out. And then you go back 20 years before that, you ain't even recording it. You don't have the technology to do so. It wasn't available. Here we are in this day and age where you can see it. And it blows my mind to see how people still are like, oh, no, that's not happening, you know, or whatever. Whatever about that. The point, though, I think is just, we are so lucky to be able to have access to that material, but it's what you do with that. What do you do with that material?
Yeah, and I want to encourage everybody to understand. Like, we look at social media and there's a lot of bullshit on there, but like Ken says, there's real power for you to be able to repost and bring light to certain social issues that you got. I seen a post recently that said Breonna Taylor is not trending anymore, so bring her justice. Look at, if there's clearly issues with multiple instances, and our job as the majority and the minority to bring light to those issues. And I want to encourage everybody to do so. I think that once we let off the gas, I think we relinquish our power. And I think that we need to make sure that we are exercising our power, because with Ken's, you know, his synopsis of everything that's going on, you see that it's in the hands of a lot of just a few people. But when you look at the grand aspect of things, we actually do have the power to communicate and to do that. We're living in a day and age where we have the power to do so. So we need to exercise that. Otherwise, we are just falling in line with these. Look, if I listed every single one of these networks that's under these 6 little umbrellas, that's all you consume.
So you allow 6 people to dictate the way that you live your life.
Exactly. And we need to be more powerful than that. And I think that if we want change and if we want things to be brought and we want justice for multiple different aspects, we need to understand the power that we hold. And we need to look at some of these networks, some of these billionaires that are running things, and understand that we have power, but we have to unite. We have to bring light to these things. And when we do so, things can happen. And in the case of Vanessa Guillen, we can't change the fact that she was brutally murdered, but we can bring light to the injustice that certain individuals are under. And I think that that's more our responsibility of learning about these situations and understanding what happened here, and setting the expectations for how we expect people to go into these scenarios.
Right. We can get better. We can learn something from it. That has to be the point. The point always in my book has to be, how do I get better? And we have things there. Like I said, why would we sit back and allow a group of 6, let's say 6 groups to dictate how we live our lives and the information that we consume and how we vote and how we go to war and how we do these things? Why is that ever even a thought? I can't understand that. Almost to the point of me thinking, here we are. We have this real, like, the point I want to make is, educate yourself. You know, if you agree with it, great, agree with it, but understand why. Not because of this is the what I'm being sold, but look into it. And then look into the opposing side and see, well, what do they think, right? Like, well, why do they? That's something I had to do recently. I had to look into the opposing side. And it was tough for me, especially as a individual. I'm a black man, you know what I mean? I thought, like, fuck it, you know what? Let me see what they're talking about. And I don't necessarily agree, but I thought it was bullshit of me not to at least try to understand where they're coming from. When you look at like a Black Lives Matter, then All Lives Matter or Blue Lives Matter, I want to see the point. Instead of just being fed information from somebody that I have no idea who the fuck you are. I don't know who's running these groups, and that's something to think about too. Who's actually running these things? Who is really putting this on? And I'm not saying that it's wrong. I'm not weighing in on any of that. I'm simply saying, look at what you're doing before you do something. Invest some time into it. Put some effort into it. I remember as a kid, if I wanted to look something up, I had to go to a library. I had to get an encyclopedia. I had to do that. We live in a day I can pull my phone out of my pocket and I can look at endless amounts of information on that. So what the fuck is stopping us from doing it? I had to challenge myself to do it. I guess to a point, I'm kind of jumping into my truth there. But with that, I'm going to say that is my truth.
Let's get into the truth.
My truth is, instead of you have an opinion, challenge yourself to see the other side. See where they're coming from. And then do some research into what they're talking about. And then compare the two. Like, really do some homework. You want honest reporting. You want honest journalism. You want these things. If you fall into the YouTube algorithms or the Instagram algorithms and you don't challenge yourself to see another side and you're only fed one source of information, then to me, in my eyes, I'll be honest with you, I think you're kind of a fool. And this, again, this comes from a black man in this time right now. I would say, you look at the Colin Kaepernick. Years ago, he's branded as a fucking idiot. Okay, that's what happened. Let's call it what it is. He was treated as, oh, fuck you, and made to look like an asshole. I'm saying it very directly the way I'm saying it. Today, people are looking at him and saying, oh, man, give him a shot in the NFL again. All of this. And why? Why was it manipulated at that point in time? And now, because it fits an agenda, it's like, oh, yeah, let's talk about it. That blows my fucking mind. If you can't see that, you gotta open your fucking eyes a little bit. Why would that be the case? I'm all about, like, Black lives, you goddamn right, every day of the week. But ask yourself why. Why would this same group brand one individual this way and now today say they're great? Why? There's always an agenda behind something.
Always.
Turn it over to James.
Yeah, so this episode got a little heavy on the back end. Again, there's a lot
The
of
back nine.
Yeah, it's a back nine, as Anthony would say. A lot of social media and social injustice and social responsibility that we got into. Again, I want to give condolences to the family of Vanessa Guillen for the tragedy that they endured. But my truth is this, man. I want to give a little bit of love to the people who have the ability to sway a room, the ability to change a mindset, the ability to change the experience that they're dealing with. And I want to give a little shout out to somebody I met in Florida. Okay, I went to Florida last year, and we went to a restaurant, and they were like, we went to this restaurant, and the waitress was kind of a bitch. Just to be blunt about it. And this individual that I was with, her name's Eiley. She chose to be nice to the waitress, right? And what happened is the waitress changed her attitude. She changed her mood. And I want to give a huge shout out to the people who can experience negativity and bullshit and still choose to be the better person. And watch how things change for that, and watch how the experience is different, because it gave a little insight to me to be able to see how no matter what you're going through, if you choose to look positively and choose to have a positive experience, you can do so. And I just want to give a huge shout out to the people who can do that, because honestly, I think we need a lot more of that. And not because everything's got to be positive, but just because you have to do your part. And if you want positivity, you got to bring it. If you want to make a change, you got to bring it. If you want justice, you got to bring it. If you want change, you got to be part of the change. You can't just sit back. So I want to give a huge shout out to the people who are actually active in the things that they want, because in my opinion, that's the only people who can expect the result, is the people who are actually involved in the movement and the change and all that and everything that's going on right now. I think a huge shout out to everybody who's involved in Black Lives Matter. A huge shout out to everybody who wants justice for Vanessa. A huge shout out to people who just want their life to improve, but the people who are putting in the work to change their circumstances, I want to give a huge shout out to. So thank you guys for listening. Make sure you guys go to the YouTube. Make sure you guys subscribe. Leave some goddamn comments. If you guys are listening on any podcast apps, make sure you subscribe so you guys get everything. We drop every Monday. There's no difference in that. We drop every fucking Monday, and we just love what we do, and we hope you guys enjoyed everything that we put out.
Right. And again, to back up James' point, subscribe, comment. Hey, I'm talking to you. I'm talking to you right now. You sitting there looking at it, hearing it, and you haven't done so, click the fucking button. You know what I mean? What's holding you back? Do so. And even if you don't like it, be like, hey, I hate you guys. And then we'll be like, yeah, that's cool. I was going to say some mean shit, but I thought after that positive vibe my friend just kicked, I'll leave it alone. Again, so the beer we're drinking tonight, Alone Together, this is by Moonraker Brewery. Just to recap, I'm not gonna say the name. I'm gonna say it. Balvenie. Whatever. You get it. Peep it out. Tell us, hey guys, you guys are dumb. That's how you say it. And again, we'll thumbs down your comment because you're a jerk. But
and I also want to say this: if you guys enjoy this podcast at all, make sure you guys send a link to somebody that you hang out with, one of your friends, your family members, whatever. Just share this shit because we appreciate everything. And on that, we are going to go ahead and wrap up. And with that.
And you know what time that is? That means, okay, guys. Okay, bye.